Just a language warning for this episode. Welcome to the Afterlight Podcast with me, Lauren Grace, a spiritual podcast full of stories and conversations that prove we're never alone. The Afterlight Podcast aims to inspire and educate. Remember, you are the authority on your own life. I encourage you to run everything through your own filter, to take what resonates, and I also urge you to do your own research and consult with qualified professionals for advice on your personal situation. The opinions shared by guests are their own, and any advice by our guests or by me is not a substitute for professional guidance. Thank you so much for listening, and I enjoy journeying back with you to the afterlight. Enjoy the episode. Hi, Lauren Grace, and welcome. I always say hi, Lauren Grace. It's like, no, hi, Lauren Grace here, and welcome to the Afterlight Podcast. And I'm joined today by Lindsay Schroeder. She is a professional priestess, a spiritual wellness mentor, and intuitive business coach. She is called to support those who are awakening and ascending into their divinity and descending into their delicious humanity. She believes in the marriage of the practical and the energetic, the scientific and the esoteric. Her work is here to support you on the pathway from unaware to conscious creator. Your outer world is just a projection of your inner reality. I'm getting covered in goosebumps. Perception is everything, and Lindsay is here to help you break that down, integrate it, and embody it. Lindsay is also the host of the Professional Priestess Podcast. Love a good alliteration. Lindsay's joining me today. We have so many things we want to discuss, and I think Lindsay and I could talk for like hours because we're just friends who have just re-met for the first time here. But today we're going to laser our focus, and we're going to be talking about healing for healers. We're going to be talking about some of the things that can sometimes happen. If you're not a healer, that's okay. It's just about people on the spiritual journey and how that's not always a linear path. And sometimes you have a dark night of the soul, and then you have another kick in the butt a little bit later, and like how to deal with that. And then also how to deal with that if you're also running a business and trying to show up and be authentic for your clients. There's a lot of things we're going to get into because I'm also a business nerd, which I don't think Lindsay knows. So let's get into it. Lindsay, before we get started, how did your spiritual journey begin? Did you have a dark night of the soul? Did you get a little butt kick, or what happened?
Well, I was very intuitive from a very young age, and it got me in a lot of trouble. I remember seeing the name of someone's not official relationship at a family get together, and all the adults were up in arms about why would you tell her that she's a child? And I was like, nobody told me that. Like, they're like, well, how could you possibly get that name? And just as a kid, I was like, I heard it. And they're like, well, who told you? And I'm like, I heard it. And I could already identify that I was hearing like a non-human voice. Like nobody said it. I didn't listen with a cup against a wall. I didn't overhear it, but I heard it. And I figured out very quickly my mother's Roman Catholic family, our Mexicana religious, lovely little get-togethers were not available for my witchy magic. So I shoved it down for a really long time. And it was really hard and really sad. And I missed so much in my youthful years because I wasn't able to like grow with that part of me. And so now having my own baby and allowing her to like flourish in her fullness has been a whole healing opportunity. But it wasn't until college. In college, I went just to like buy some incense or a candle, and I walked into the spiritual shop and I had a whole like mind to mind experience with a woman. And I was like, there's no way this is happening. There's no way. And then I got up to the counter and she confirmed it. And she ended up writing me like a little note of like, I think you should check these things out. And just like listed a couple things for me. But she completely confirmed. She was like, we were communicating in a way that is not language, in a way that is not your mouth moving and making sound and my ears hearing that sound, but we were communicating. And like told me a few of the things that I was like, there's no way, that I'm like saying in my own head. And she's like, you got it, girl. And I was like, I have no idea. And yet I know. And like that
Yes.
remembrance
Yeah.
where I was like, oh
Isn't
yeah,
that funny.
like sleeper mode activated. And it went. And it wasn't until many, many years later that I like turned it into a business. Like I was offering spiritual services for years, long before I was like, okay, my own business. And everybody my whole life was like, you'd be really good at having your own business. Like you're really bossy and you have a lot of ideas and you execute and you're disciplined. And I didn't give a shit about anything enough to be like, why would I take that on? Like at my corporate job, I can give like 40% and they think I'm giving 110 and it's awesome and I'm getting paid and I barely have to like do anything. And everybody thinks I'm so great at this because I'm so intuitive. And I'm like putting stuff together and everybody's like, oh, you work so hard. And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then there was this one moment with like my now platonic life partner, who is my twin flame, who is like this massive catalyst for me. And she went through these really difficult, dark soul, night of the soul type things. And I helped her through it and I coached her and I guided her. And it was the first time that like my priestess really came out and she looked at me at the end of it. It was like several months. And she was like, this is what you should be doing. And same thing, sleeper mode activated. And I just started, like, I started Googling, how do I do an LLC? How do I open a business bank account? And it just snowballed and it went so fast and it was so easy and it was so efficient. And I was charging like good rates right out the gate and was like doing it. And I coasted on that like for quite some time. And it wasn't until after my own baby and my own like stuff that I really had to like go through what so many spiritual business owners go through of like the self-sabotage and the imposter syndrome and the, oh, difficulty marketing and like all of these things. And I was like, oh my God, this is overwhelming.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we also look online and we're like, oh shit, entrepreneurship is like super easy. Anyone can do it. Look at all of these people making bank. It's so
Yeah.
great. Like I lost my job in 2020 through COVID.
Okay.
And I had to, kind of like figure out what it was that I wanted to do. And
Mm-hmm.
I thought I would start my own business. And I thought I would start my own business. And I found that after a few years, it actually was very challenging.
Yeah.
And I've personally given myself a little bit of a break of doing that. And I feel better for it because not
Mm,
everyone is supposed to be on, I don't think, all of the time. And then also, like you were
yeah.
talking about, where do we leave room for growth and reflection and all of these other things that we're dealing with? I think there's this misconception that people who heal or people who are like spiritual mentors, that they don't have their own shit to sometimes sort out.
And that's a big thing we, as those spiritual mentors, have to fucking deal with. Because that is one of the rite of passages of not just being an entrepreneur, but what I call a soulpreneur. And so like that's a lot of times like who my niched down client is, a soulpreneur. Not just an entrepreneur, but someone on that dharmic path. Somebody who's like, oh,
Yeah.
this is not just like how I want to make my money, but this is my dharma, my calling, my passion, my purpose. And when you weave those two things together, your stability, your safety, your financial success, your livelihood, and your purpose, your passion, your soul blueprint, your soul's calling, holy fuck, your business is the deepest shadow work you will ever do. It is the hardest self-reflective, self-love journey, and it will show you everything. And like for me personally, I started my business and I was like flying high and
On a
I was like, this
high.
is so
Yeah.
great. And it wasn't until I had that first big, holy fuck, like I'm down at the bottom of my own pit. How do I continue to like make money doing this when I'm going through my own thing? And what
Mm.
I'm selling and what I'm teaching is different for the first time in my career from what I'm personally learning. That was really unique for me. Both of those things happened at the
Oh.
same time, and it was very overwhelming.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay, we need to jam on that for a second, but I do want to bring up something that you said earlier because there was just a point there. You know how you're saying that when you were younger, you were kind of forced to shut down those magical gifts, and there's like this, I was feeling what you said, like there's like a regret for that young woman who
Yes.
like wanted to like be that. But one of the things that I love about it is that because it happened to you, you're also hyper aware of allowing your child the space for them to be who they are. I'm just getting covered in goosebumps here,
Mm,
like so much. And, we never want negative or bad things to happen to anybody, especially like ourselves. I look back on my life and I'm like, damn, I really wish like I hadn't had to go through some of that stuff. But when we can see the other side, or when we can start to go, oh, I'm not going to make that truth or that happen for someone else, maybe that was also a part of the whole thing, you know?
My, like the most difficult things in my life, I am the most grateful for now. And that is
Yeah.
truly how I define the priestess path. Of like, you get to this place and this level and this depth, both as in my intro you mentioned, the like, I believe in the ascension into the divinity as well as the descension into the humanity, and that it's both. That like just doing one is kind of missing out, and that you need that spiral path. And that's actually what my membership is called, this spiral where sometimes you feel like you're going back and down, and sometimes you feel like you're going forward and up. And the double helix of that DNA is what it is about. And I am beyond grateful for the most difficult pieces of hardship that I've been through, because it's like Joseph Campbell says, it's in the cave that you don't want to go into, that like the treasure you desire is. And I have
Oh,
done what most of us do, where I'm like, nah, it's not in there. Like I know better. It's not in there. It's fine. I'm gonna focus over
yeah.
here. And it
Yeah.
always winds up in there.
I don't want to go in the cave.
Right? And I'm just like, enough with the spunking, okay? And like, I did this once already with my daddy shit. Like, I should be done, right? Like, I did it. I got the harness on. I went deep into the cave. I excavated the gems and jewels. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Cool, cool, cool. Now, I would like to not do that again. And then, a whole other big thing smacked me, and I had to do that exact same thing. And for a very long time, I was like so angry and so hurt. And I was like, how is this going to turn into this grand lesson? And yet, my whole being, my whole professional persona, my whole personal persona, all of it is this magical priestess perspective of like, oh, it's in the cave. And yet, as my human individual, I still went through the resistance. And like you're saying, being closed for so long allows me to see those specific types of closures in others. And it makes it easier for me to support them and help them. And now,
Mm.
same thing for this past, like, very big difficulty. It unlocked modalities, it unlocked new services, it unlocked whole new depths of capabilities. And the type of clients, the level of clients that I serve now is different because of it. But it was hard fought and it was ugly for quite some time.
I mean, the thing is, like, if you were a bright, shiny star your whole entire life, people wouldn't be able to relate to you either, right? And you wouldn't be able to
Yes.
relate to their stuff. And it'd be like, who are you coaching me when you've never gone through anything difficult?
Yes. One of my favorite like money coaches, that's like her whole thing. She's like, yeah, you could go hire the woman who like started off and started making bank really early. She's like, I went for 5 years with no clients. So like I can help you do, and it's so particular for
Yeah.
each of us. And like so often
Yeah.
as business owners, we try and like, oh no, I want a different niche. It's not just me 5 minutes ago or me 5 years ago. And it always ends up being, oh yeah, it's me 5 minutes ago, and it's me 5 hours ago, and it's me 5 weeks ago, and 5 months ago, and 5 years ago. And maybe in these different little nuanced ways, maybe not in the way that you picture it, but like your lived experience is your grandest teachings. And like I believe in soul blueprints. I believe that we signed up for the majority of our like big ass lessons. I know we can stumble into some that we didn't sign up for, but for the most part, those big cataclysmic things you signed up for in some way, shape, or form.
Mm. Mm. And
Hmm.
I'll say too, for our listener at home, I did a really powerful episode with a woman named Christine Lang, who you should get on your show. She's
Mm,
incredible. She was talking a lot about soul decisions that are being made, like that our
yes.
souls sometimes make decisions for us as well. And because I always thought it was like me, and I would berate myself sometimes for that. And she's like, but sometimes
Hmm.
your soul's also doing things because that's what this is about. You're like having this
Yes.
communication. And yeah.
Yes. I experienced the signing of the soul contract with my father.
Wow.
And that was a big one, because I was like, I would not sign up for this. And I went through that for such a long time. I was like, there's no way that I would pick this. And like, how do I reconcile my beliefs with the fact that like I do believe that children pick their parents. And yet
Me.
there are so many of us in situations where we're like, I did not fucking pick that. And so after quite a bit of work, both personally and with my in-house astrologer, who is also a Psych professional, and a massive rewiring. I ended up being able to go into the no thing quantum space and like kind of witness the signing of my soul contract. And my soul was like, will you help me do these things? Will you help me be these things? Like, I need to be super independent. I need to be able to like self-motivate. I need to have, and it's like the most beautiful aspects of my father. He's like this. And I'm looking at this soul and he's like, yes, I will love you so much. I will help you with all this. And then we get down here and I'm like, okay, so you're gonna like scoop me up and you're gonna teach me and you're gonna hold my hand and we're gonna have this like daddy-daughter moment. And he's like, oh no, I'm gonna be an absolute asshole. And you are gonna learn in absolute opposition. I'm gonna leave this massive hole in your life and you are gonna have to be independent and you are gonna have to be self-motivated and you're gonna have, and I was like, no, no, no. No, no, no. Cute us upstairs was like loving and precious and wonderful. And you loved me and I loved you and I picked it. And he's like, oh, I'm doing it, but not in the way you wanted. And that was a lot, and yet it was the beginning of some depthful learning and knowing. And now I like see and understand my lessons so efficiently. My human might not get in alignment with it fast. Like I might still have to deal with a lot of like difficult human emotions. Like I still get bratty and pouty and throw a toddler tantrum, but like my projector perspective and soul perspective is so acutely aware of lessons almost immediately when they happen. And I'm like, so you can freak out and you can have your shit fit, but like we understand that this is a gift. It's just how efficient can we get there?
Wow, that's so powerful. One of the words that came up for me was the word resilience. And it's like sometimes, unless you go through those difficult times, if you were like cheered on the whole time and had like a soundtrack and a full like money bank to like help you like just rock your life, you wouldn't understand the power of resilience. And I think if we don't understand, thank you. I feel like if we don't
Mhm.
understand the power of resilience, we don't understand the opportunity that can be had when we take risks and when we are brave and when we are courageous. And because if you have never been taught to fail, or if you've never had the opportunity to like see things not work out, then you don't know how to look at them from a different perspective. You don't know how to get in and
Mhm.
get gritty, and you don't know how to like save a dollar and like figure out how you can, offer new services and get rid of anything that's no longer serving you.
I also just have to say, watching that come through intuitively to your left side and watching you transfer it to your right side was chef's kiss.
That was so interesting because my guides talk to me always on the right side, but then all of a sudden it was like, that's so
Yes.
funny that you
And
saw
that
that
stood out so
happen.
much. I was like, oh, is that not normal? Because like that was beautiful. Like watching, when you see like the basketball players like tossing back and forth and then and it's like so fluid and you're like, I could never do that if I tried. That's exactly how I experienced that moment. So for those of you who aren't watching, try and find where you
Yeah.
can watch it because that was very cool. Like came
Yeah.
through on
I'll
the
release
left and you
that clip.
immediately like transferred it to your right hand side and we're like, okay, synthesize.
Yeah,
Mm,
that was really interesting. Thanks for noticing that.
you are very
That was
welcome.
really cool. So we'll see if that continues to
And
happen as a new wave of information coming through. So one of the things that you've sort of alluded to and that I really wanted to touch on is, when you were talking about almost like needing to pivot in your business and look at new services and, you're opening up to new modalities and these new things that were happening. One thing that I think we really need to focus on is that as entrepreneurs as well, I feel like there's like this need for us to have to do everything all of the time. When I
yeah.
lost my job and then I went ahead and I started 3 podcasts and I was doing coaching and all this kind of stuff, I remember this girl handed to me like I went on, do you remember Clubhouse back in the day when that came out? Like if you
Yes.
so I was on
Yes.
Clubhouse, right? So I go on Clubhouse and I'm like, yeah, ask a question. And I said, I was just wondering, I would like to monetize my podcast. And I have 3 podcasts. And I was just wondering, like, how do you monetize things that are evergreen and blah, blah, blah. And then this woman said on the panel, I would never invest in you. And I said, what? And she goes, your focus is so split that your stats aren't even that good. And also, even if they were good, your focus is all these places that if I was going to be backing you, that I would want to know you were going all in on the one thing. Anyway, I got rid of one of my podcasts. It took me about half a year to get rid of another one, or like to move it on to, because I
Yeah.
was with somebody else. And this is a really long-winded way of me saying that it has taken me almost 4 years to realize the thing that I really get hyped up about for sure mediumship, but I've taken a break from that at the moment, is my podcast. But I've spent
Mm,
so long offering services and doing workshops and doing mini courses and online train like that it's taken me away from where I actually need to be. So I'd love to know
mm-hmm.
from you, how do you pare away the things that are no longer serving you? How do you start to go, oh, I really was invested, and I've also started talking to a therapist, and that's an interesting thing. So they have a different perspective of life than I do. And I like that
Right.
because they're not I don't need someone to be like, speaking the same language as me. But one of the things that she said was, how did you feel when you had to shut down all these parts of your business? And I said, I felt sad for the girl who went in and has all this gold. She's got
Mm,
all of this gold here, and she's like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that now. And I feel sad for that girl, but I also feel liberation and a freedom of where I'm going now.
yeah.
Over to you, Lindsay.
I don't see you as letting, like, losing or letting go of any of that gold, because I think we have this perspective of like gold as in something you can store in the bank, something you can have in a bar, but like you are the gold. The gold is inside you. And so everything that you learned and integrated, and the difference in each of those podcasts, like you got to be different versions of yourself, and you got to really like steep in that and experience that and like craft those personifications, those facets of self. You got to experience more than one life in this life, which is an aspect of being a healer, a light worker, a priestess, a medicina, part of the feminine revolution. And then you got to take the pieces and parts, the like lived experience of like, oh yeah, that felt good, and like, ooh, that was really good, and merge them. And I think it's a perspective shift for so many of us, because in a more masculine perspective, it would be a loss of gold. It might be, oh, I started this whole
Mm.
business and now I have to like go over here. But the feminine doesn't work like that. The Kali Ma in us, the goddess in us, the rite of passage, the maiden, the mother, the crone, just this constant cyclical nature that we not only are, but that we experience, and that we are that like snake eating its own tail. We handle things differently. And so I don't see you like losing or setting aside or even just having that gold being invested. I feel like it was fertilizer in the soil. So even when you plant something new, that fertilizer, that good compost, those little wormies are still doing a good job for what it is that's growing now, even if it's a completely different crop than before.
Oh, that's so good. You keep talking about the cyclical and the cycle, and I love that because I think that there's like some level of us where we go, oh, my journey started and then it'll end. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. It's kind
You
of
got to
like
learn how to die.
pain. Yeah, like
You got to
pain.
learn
Like
how to
pain
die
isn't
over
lineal.
and
And
over and over again. That is one of
one,
the hardest aspects of like choosing this path of like really choosing yourself and going, okay, society told me this, and my family told me that, and the structure told me this, and like the matrix tells me that. And I kind of just want to go like, nah, and do
yeah.
me. And when you do that, it isn't a linear path. It isn't I start and then I end when I die. You are dying over and over and over. And sometimes you even have to kill off those different versions to fully birth a new version of you,
Yeah, but it's scary. I don't want to die over and over. How do
right?
you look at that knowing that you have to do that, but doing it with enthusiasm and with like clear vision? And I know, and I think you can connect to this because you kind of like alluded to it. I know that if I'm like sitting back and I'm in my soul seat, I have a completely different relationship than I'm like out front being the human.
Yes. Yes. Number
Yeah.
one piece of perspective, don't be fully in the human when that's happening. Like there has been a time where I was rebirthed in a ceremony, and my like most trusted mentor is like in this quiet space with me, and she's reminding me over and over. She's like, "You are a baby in a birth canal." And I'm like, "Okay. Okay, like I logically understand what you're saying, but like thinking the sensory experience of a baby in a birth canal and then being born in that like moment of like, what the fuck is air and light and sound and whoa. And so like that has been really supportive for me in this question around like, okay, like this is scary. How do we do this? Acknowledging that like, yes, this is scary. Yes, it's overwhelming. That's part of the process. That there is, of course, those moments where you're like, am I gonna be okay? Am I gonna make it? Am I capable of this? Am I like, can I do this? And yet the baby is born. And like, yes, we all come into this world in very similar and yet very different ways. And no matter how you come into the world, like you are, for the most part, we know there are situations that are different than this, but for the most part, you're taking a breath and you're opening those eyes and you are doing the life thing. And like, yes, it's a choice in this like soul sense way, but it's also like a lot of these like automatic systems come on. And so there is this trust and this faith that happens when you realize like how much of
Mhm.
this is automatic and intrinsic inside you, and it's your human monkey mind that is the scared, fearful, doesn't trust, is the caterpillar when it's the goo inside the chrysalis is probably like, what the fuck is this? And then all of a sudden it's like, I've got wings, guys. And like you totally forget what it's like to be a caterpillar.
Yeah, yeah. And it really comes down to the fact that when we're adding labels on things, right? Like that's good or that's bad. Well,
Yes.
what if I really want to get away from seeing things as good and bad? Because I don't believe in that. I actually think that things just are, but we just add that kind of human side. So like maybe part of the, being in a situation is being the goo, like you said, and then all of a sudden it's like, what if we looked at it and got excited and we went, oh, this is a really exciting thing because I know that what's waiting for me is beautiful, shiny new wings and a whole new life. And I just have to
Mm-hmm.
kind of be grateful for the moment, even if it's difficult, compassionate with self,
Yes.
compassionate with the journey as I transition and prepare myself for the next step. That being said, one thing
Yeah.
that you talked about earlier, which I think we really need to tap into because it's probably going to be a big one, is when you are doing services like spiritual services or when you are a healer or you're doing anything like that, there's this kind of need to always be on for your clients, to always be on and
Yes.
being supportive of, like the people that you serve. And sometimes we can't always do that. But then there's that other part that comes in where it's like, but if this is how I make my money, how do I navigate that? So,
Mm-hmm.
what were your sort of thoughts on that? And how do people get around it? I mean, they have to have a good savings account. Obviously, they need to prepare for like a rainy day. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's not always easy, but especially when you want to show up in integrity for people and you're just not there.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think is we'll say it looks like a backwards perspective, and it is something that we as healers have to learn is that you must take care of yourself to take care of your clients. And so like when you are more at like the bottom of the barrel or you're in your own dark night of the soul, or maybe you're having difficulty in your relationship, or there's complications in your family, and you yourself are going through things, it is important for you to lean into resourcing yourself more than you typically do. So, a lot of times when
Mm,
I am dedicated to showing up in integrity for a client, the prep work is different. Where something that I might take 15 minutes to prepare for, maybe it takes 2 hours to prepare for, and being honest with myself about where I am and what I need to be able to be in that integrous space. Because when you hold conscious container, when you hold sacred space for someone else, you don't know what's going to show up in there, and you have to be fully prepared to never lose the container, hold that, and be in it with them as well. And that bilocation is a lot. And so really resourcing the self and being honest about what your services take from you and where you are and who you are serving and what could come up, and really honoring that like maybe I can only do one session in a day. Maybe I do need to sleep a whole lot more. Maybe I need to give up something that's like fun for me, like watching crappy TV or scrolling through social media, and I need to do
mm,
my own practices, my own work to prepare for offering to another because it is my livelihood. And I think it's some of those things that a lot of times in spiritual business we don't talk about because we're talking about the light and the bright and the pretty and the this and the that. And it's like, no, you are also offering a professional service. And so just like
yeah.
other people going to a corporate job, like that lawyer can be having personal drama in their and yet they're still showing up in court and representing. They still have to have their shit together in front of the judge. And like we have to hold ourselves to that same level and standard. And yet, what it takes oftentimes looks very, very different because it's not just having your briefs in alignment and highlighting the right things and making sure that everything looks nice and professional and your suit's pressed. You're like, no, I need to make sure that none of my own shadows or entities or leaks in my energy are going to like
Yeah.
transform through.
Yes, exactly. I'm having a bad day, but that's not you. And I can't all of a sudden bring like this layer of shadow onto your stuff because how is that
Yes.
fair? It's not. Yeah, it's
Yes.
funny. My girlfriend, Martina Bilek, she's been on the show a few times. She's
That
incredible. But one of the things we were
that
talking
was my
about was
favorite
she,
one.
oh,
When
with
you asked in
Yeah.
the intake form,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, that was my
Yeah,
favorite one.
Martina's a gun. She's the best. You should have her on your show too, by
You'll
the
have
way.
to introduce me.
I will. I will.
Yes.
But one of the things she was saying, because I was telling her that I was out of yoga, which I've been for years, haven't been doing that consistently, and I go on and off my meditation now and again, and things like that. And she said, "Isn't it funny how when we're working for clients and we're showing up every day, our spiritual hygiene is so high." And then the minute we're
Mm-hmm.
not doing that kind of work, we kind of like get out of these sort of habits and paraphrasing, but essentially, yeah. And it's what you're talking about. It's like when you're showing up for others, you do have to make sure that you're showing up for them at the high, high, high level. But that also goes into best practices for taking care of yourself. What are some ways that you use the term resource yourself? How do you resource yourself,
Mm-hmm.
Lindsay?
Oh, a lot of silence, a lot of stillness, a lot of direct connection with God and my own connection practice. So I do a grounding into the center of the earth. Then I move through each of my like both energetic and human layers through my own chakra system. Then once I move up and out of my system, I connect to my higher self. So every version of me that will use the language of linear time in front of me, the learnings, the lessons. I go through every version of that until I reach the highest self, the totality of self, the like fully ascended human, the soul. And then I go up into Father, Mother, God, Mother, Father, Goddess. And then I go up into any of my like pantheon or guides or any of the supports that are kind of like around after I've gone upward. And then a lot of times I go up into quantum, totality, all cosmic, multiverse, all of that. And so doing that practice can be something super efficient and quick. I can do it in a minute or 3 minutes, and other times it takes me 3 hours.
Oh,
And
wow. Because,
really,
yeah.
yeah, because sometimes I get stuck. And so
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
man, I've been trying to go from my grounding cord through my sacral, and I keep like, oh, now I realize I'm just like thinking over here, and I gotta come back, and then I gotta come back, and then I gotta come back. And sometimes I have to spend so much like time, and I'm using air quotes for anybody who can't see time, because like the time gets really buoyant. The like beautiful places can be a long amount of time, and they feel like seconds, and the difficulty, the stagnation, the like, oh, I gotta move through that, or oh, I'm distracted, the like, the delicacy of like coming back over and over to move through this and not jam through it, but just delicately love myself over and over to come back again and come back again to continue on with the process. Resourcing myself is doing my own work. Like you're saying, it's so easy to do it for clients of like, oh, of course I cleanse and of course I ground, and of course I
Yeah.
protect, and of course I do. And I'm like, yes, but
Yeah.
to be ready to do that for a client, I need to have done that for myself. And sometimes
Yeah.
that's easy and efficient. Sometimes I light my little incense and I hit my tuning fork and I'm like, I'm ready, baby.
I'm
And other times
ready.
I'm
Yeah.
like, no, we're gonna need a bath and we're gonna need salt and we're gonna need Hapé and we're gonna
Yeah.
need and I like see all the things and I'm like, oh boy. And it's an undertaking and I can look at it as like, oh my God, I have to go through all of these steps, or I can look at it as like, oh my God, I have such supportive, like beneficial beings and guides and like the pieces and parts of me, they're making it so clear, the specifics, that like I have a little to-do list and I know the result is a clear channel. And so I'm so grateful and I am so thankful. And like, here's me down the yellow brick road I go, and I'm going to stop at each of the little spots and I'm going to enjoy it and I'm going to luxuriate in it and I'm going to play with time like a fucking accordion. And like at the end of this, know what my channel is going to feel like, and that's it. And so like I will go beautifully into this cave.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. You keep talking about being a clear channel, and I think a lot of people who are doing spiritual work, they may be familiar with that, but can you talk about how you see being a clear channel?
Yes. Clear channel to me is understanding with such depth and such delicacy and such specificity what is me, clear everything out that is not my human, both my cosmic, my soul, all the pieces of me, and knowing myself deeply and so completely that when I hold space or a container and I include or I'm calling something else in or I'm witnessing that something else is coming in, that I'm able to like feel and sense and separate and pull these pieces and parts apart. Oh, this is Akashic. Oh, this is, ancestral, and being able with all of my stuff, muddying it up, but that it's not influencing, muddying anything, that it is a clear channel, a beautiful, clear space for me to invite this individual in and for me to hold a clear container for them, and that it's their stuff, information, vibration, layers, potency that I'm exploring in that space.
That's so beautiful. I have to tell you, it's a bit ironic because when you were talking about that, the internet connection cut out. So, like, some of the clear channel conversation was actually
It's
cut out, which is so frustrating because you articulated that
a
so
high vibe.
beautifully.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's like all of a sudden, yeah, the internet's like, I can't handle all of this energy going
Yes.
through.
I do that a lot.
That's hilarious.
My actual therapist used to check at the beginning of every one of our sessions. She's like, "Do you have all those crystals for your computer, by your computer?" Because man, it's not my internet. I know it's not it's you. And sometimes when I'm in an intense space, it will shut down. It will cut. It will kick the internet out of my whole house. Like it will change in vibration and vibrations, you see, baby. And sometimes I'm up there.
Yeah, well, you're up there right now, girl, and I love it. I remember one time I had a tarot reader like many years ago, and I said, "Oh, are we going to record the session?" And then she goes, "Oh, well, it'll never record, right? But we can try." And I went, "Okay." Like, didn't
Mhm.
believe. And then, would you believe it? It didn't record, even though we hit you're on mute. That's so funny. Lindsay got kicked up.
Guys, you can't make that.
I'm going to edit some of this so our listener at home probably won't like hear all of the little connection challenges we're having, but you should know that Lindsay was talking about how sometimes, yeah, she gets cut out and then she like got dropped off the call, which normally if the internet's a problem, it's on my end, not on her end.
I know my internet's like full blown.
But anyway, all right. So let's move into it. One thing, let's talk a little bit about services and pricing for services, because I think that one of the challenges a lot of spiritual people have are like pricing their services and then sticking to that. I like talking about money because money is important. We need money to rock the world and to help other people and to create an amazing life full of experiences for ourselves. So money is really important, I feel. And I also believe that when we are charging services, we have to charge them at a good rate. And, Lindsay, one of the things that you were talking about was this really elaborate process that you use to like clear and cleanse your energy. And I would imagine you didn't wake up one day and just know that that's taking years and years of experience to get to that stage. So people got to pay for the goods, right? Anyway, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are and who are some of the people you work with and what are some of their hangups around that?
Yeah. So I will start by saying that my private coaching is a 3 month minimum and it is 5,000 a month. And I've been at
Girl,
a what most people consider a higher rate for private work. I've been a luxury or high ticket offering since I started. When I first started, I was charging 5,000 or 7,500 for 3 month packages and then have moved up through the like 10,000 now at a pretty good homeostasis place for a little while at 15,000 for a 3 month minimum. And like you're saying, the amount of work that it takes to do some of this work,
yeah.
and like you're not paying for just like what is said, you're paying for everything that had to go through before to be able to synthesize it in that way, to be able to do it, to be able to hold that container. It's also the buy-in for someone else, and
Yeah.
it is so important when someone is coming to you for this type of work because a lot of it is intangible. I need you bought in. The reason that my clients can have these like trajectory altering, timeline altering, life altering things. Like I've had some people come to me and say like, "Oh, I've been focused on this for a really long time." Of like, for instance, I have a very successful business. I'm making a fuck ton of money. Love. Womp womp. I'm like, I've been trying this and I've been and like I get it and I've used every one of my tools and I've paid a bunch of other people. And so like this level of like, okay, I'm bought in so much that I need you to buy in that much too. And in this reality, that's money.
Yeah, and also I've done free stuff for people before and they do not implement shit. They do not implement it and they're like, "Oh, I don't know why things aren't working." Number one, I just gave you 2 hours of my time for free and you didn't listen and you didn't do anything. And now I don't get those 2 hours back of my life and you missed an opportunity. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're bought in and you're actually like bought in and you're paying, usually that would
Yes.
equate to someone wanting to also do the work. Yeah.
Yes. And so, like, there's so many facets to this. Healers and light workers and medicine women and priestesses and those of us with utilizing our feminine gifts in particular. Not that it's just feminine gifts, because of course there's masculine structure and there's systems and there's scaling, but those of us who are selling our feminine gifts, it is so important. It is imperative that we start to change the perspective of the value of this. It is so important that heart-centered individuals are getting paid and getting paid handsomely and getting paid for everything they're doing, even though you can't necessarily see all of it. It's not just a physical product. It's not just a PDF. It's not just a workbook. Like me being able to hold that container and being able to hold all of the trauma that you might share, and then being able to show you while I'm inside the container, while I'm holding the container, while I'm never losing the container, how to actually release that and do something with it when that might be 30 plus years of that difficulty. Like, how is that not worth what you would pay an accountant, what you would pay a lawyer, what you would pay a doctor? And so, really helping people to understand what this is and value it, it starts with us valuing it at that level. And
Yeah.
I think that is a hard piece to do when a lot of the reality and society and other people are not in that space because it does start with you. And it's not the same as being in a corporate structure where you can literally go to Indeed and like compare, oh, other analyst jobs at this rate, doing this amount, blah, 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 blah. I look at what I'm doing and I've been talking to lots and lots of priestesses, and yet we are doing the same and yet completely different things. And the lineage and the work and the back and the studying and the education,
Yeah.
like it's important to value our work and to teach the value of our work and to bring it from the shadows because it has always been here. There have been priestesses long before there have been churches, and we have had our work extremely valued. And yes, so much of our modern society has stripped that away and pushed us into the shadows, and it is a feminine reclamation that is happening right now in our world. And each and every one of us called to this is responsible for our part, and it is your duty to get paid for your work.
Hmm. And for our listener at home, Lindsay's going to
Hmm.
come back on the show and we're going to talk all about the priestess, um, everything to do with priestesses when she comes back on next time, because I really wanted to laser focus today's show on healing for healers and for spiritual workers. So that's why I'm not asking a lot of questions that take us there in case that was bothering you. There's that story about, a really big factory and like a machine stops working and they're like, oh no, we need to call in the machine fixer guy. So they call him in and he comes in and he looks around and he takes out this really little hammer and he just hits it on one part of the machine and all of a sudden the machine starts going again and he's there for 10 seconds, and then he sends them a bill for $10,000 and they go, you sent us a bill for $10,000, you were only here for 10 seconds, and he
Yes.
goes, yes, because I knew where to hit the hammer to start your machine, and that's taken me 20, 30, 40 plus years to do. Yeah, and it just kind of goes back to what you're saying. It's like, yeah, sometimes you have to value the outcome of what you're getting, and that can kind of help you to
Hmm.
justify, if you need to, the costing. But I'm still guilty of that. I'll invoice somebody and I will literally sit for, a large chunk of time, way too long, sometimes worrying about that. And I go, what the hell? Most people
Mm,
never say anything to me because they can see all of the everything they got. They never question it. It's just,
yes.
I have sometimes this hurdle where I go, oh, is it? And then you go, never say no for the other person. That's a really big, important lesson that I've learned in business along the way as well. Never
Mm-hmm.
say no for somebody else.
Yes. Yeah. You never want to like price someone else out because of your own fears or limitations or
Yeah.
contractions.
Yeah.
The one tip that I will give around pricing, especially when you're pricing programs, because I encourage healers to do programs, not just single offerings.
Agree.
Because a lot of times you can kind of get into this like, oh, just a single offering and you sell your time for money. And there's some very unique limitations for that. And also like how much you can get done in one session for one person. There's a complication there. So that's its whole little side thing. But
Yes.
programs. I want you to consider if someone utilizes the program to its fullness, what price do you need to price it at where you are not going to be over it partway through? So for me, we'll take my private coaching. My minimum is 3 months. So what is the price that if someone is utilizing everything, and some of our clients will utilize everything, and some of our clients will only utilize part of it. Like there's a weekly call, and then there's Telegram messaging, there's all these things. If they utilize everything, that means like if every day, Monday through Friday, I'm checking in once a day, like it says in my contract, and they're utilizing it, I want to make sure that I'm not going to get to like month two and I'm like, oh, I've already given you the value of the dollar that you've spent.
Ah.
And so when you start to experience that, where you're starting your programs and you're getting most of the way through or part of the way through, and you're like, wow, I've already given the amount that they've given, and I feel like, oh, we're already balanced, and now I still am on the hook for more giving, that's when you need to raise your prices.
Oh, that's so
That's what you need to
good.
consider.
And you'll look
Like
for
you want to get
resentment.
paid enough.
Do you ever
Yes,
notice
you want to
that?
get paid
Yeah.
enough that you can show up the whole time to the fullness of that program and container. Ah, yes, I'm getting paid for this. And you feel like there is that sacred reciprocity that I need of like, oh, yes, I can show up in my fullness because I'm getting paid for my fullness, for
Oh,
this full container, for this full program.
that is so good because I know we've all been there in our lives where we've gone, wow, I keep giving and giving, or this person's demanding,
Yes.
and then you resent to them, or you're only showing up half heartedly, or you're annoyed, where it's like, you sent me
Mm-hmm.
another message? Really? Didn't we just? And
Yes.
yeah, and then, like you said, if
Yes.
you just go into Ching as an
Mm-hmm.
exchange of energy, time, and
Yes.
yeah. I love how when you're equating it to a lawyer and an accountant, like people don't think twice about that stuff. They don't think twice
Yes.
about, paying like $200 to get a facial for an hour, where it's like,
Yes.
but what if you're doing life-changing type stuff, but you're only charging $30 an hour, $50 an hour for that? It's like, what? How does that even happen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And looking at like the lifetime benefit of these things, not just the time that's exchanged. Because once
Yes.
again, these are not tangible in the same way. This is not you're paying me to paint this room. How many walls are in this room? How many square footage is in this room? How many cans of paint will I need? A lot of times we're going into this without knowing any of those details. I'm like, yeah, I can help you with this thing, limiting beliefs. I have no idea the depth that we're going to get
Yeah.
into, but I know what I'm signing up for and I know what I'm committing to. And so it is on me to price it at that value to make sure that I can show up fully no matter what it takes.
Yeah, that's so good. How have you wandered in your own life, like pivoting, letting go of things that aren't serving you? I know I've talked to some people before who have completely redone their whole business model. So they have to like bring in new
Mm-hmm.
clients. One of the things you said earlier, which I really liked, was that the quality of your clients was higher. I remember when I was doing mediumship work, also people buying like psychic readings, but the mediumship was really what I loved. And then because I wasn't attracting that kind of client, I got scared off and I just shut the doors for like
Mm-hmm.
over a year so far. Yeah. And I think, we come back to things when we're meant to, but I was just wondering about that for your own life. Yeah, how you've
Mm.
kind of done that.
Yeah. Being being very clear on who your ideal client is. And I know everybody says that, and I don't mean it just in the marketing sense. I don't mean what's like the ideal avatar client of like how old is she and how much money
Yes.
does she make and where does she live? I'm not talking fucking demographics here. I'm talking about vibration. I'm talking about frequency. I'm talking about availability. I'm talking about dedication. I'm talking about commitment. Like I'm talking about so many of these
Yeah.
things that are so much more than just, oh, where does she shop at and what social media platform is she at? And so for me, one of the things that like I massively shifted is my high ticket luxury coaching clients who I'm spending a lot of time with. I don't mean like you're in the shit and you want to spend a little bit of time focused on this thing and then you're consuming and you're doing and you're out, but somebody who I'm spending a lot of my time with to the point where you might get in that like the 5 people I spend the most time with for that time frame,
Mhm.
those people, I want those people to enjoy this type of work. And that was a big shift for me. That is now a important, vital part of
Yeah.
my private clients where there is a piece of like, oh, I just fucking love it. I would be doing this anyway. Oh, I'm super curious about it. So yes, we might be doing some big solves, some massive undertakings. We might be going through heavy, difficult things, but then there's also this flicker of like, okay, but I just want to learn about this thing and I'm just excited about this thing and like, ooh, my magic's in this way, or like, ooh, let's use your abilities in this area of my art. Ooh, that clicked in. That like this is fucking fun and we enjoy each other even if we're like dealing with your heavy trauma difficulty. We either enjoy each other or we nerd out about something together, but that there is this enjoyment and this enthusiasm for choosing this way of life, choosing this path, choosing this perspective, having dedication to this lifestyle. And that was a big pivot for me because I went from the like marketing, who is your ideal niche down, client, to like, no, 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 what does my soul want in a soulmate client, and really moving past just what I like to call the third dimensional marketing into like five-dimensional marketing.
Yeah, that's so good. Because I know for me, for a while there, I was attracting people who wanted to give me their power. And I'm like, that's not who I want to
Mm,
serve. I need to serve
yeah.
people who want to have that independence and that autonomy and that, spiritual dominance and say over their life. And maybe they come to me for that
Hmm.
clarity and reassurance, but not to like, do it for them. Yeah, I think that was a
Yeah,
really
and
big.
mediumship is complicated in that space because there is a
Mm,
lot of there's an ease to, oh, I just want you to communicate for me. Oh, I just want you to do it for me. Oh, I just want access to it. And there can be this like desperation that comes from that. And there can be this consistency that comes from that of like, oh, I'll just come back to you when I need to like hear so and so's voice again or feel them
mm.
again. And then you become this like tool, you become this bridge, you become this pathway. And it is very easy for people to give their power to that thing.
I don't mind that as much for mediumship. It was more for psychic stuff where I felt like people were
Mm.
wanting.
Well, that you already didn't really like.
Yeah, exactly. So it was like
Yeah.
that's why the mediumship I thought showed hope and guidance, and like it reminded people that they weren't alone and that their loved ones were here. And that for me filled my heart with so
Mm-hmm.
much love and joy. Although I do believe you need to have boundaries and how many times people would
Yes.
get readings. I'm not a fan of like, a consistent thing every week or anything. That's not how I personally
Yeah.
like to. If other people do that, that's cool. You do you. But like for me, that's not what I like. Yeah, but it was
Mm-hmm.
just, and I think a lot of us do, like, sometimes we're getting stuck. We're feeling desperate for answers or for a guarantee of a certain outcome in the future, and we haven't all gone through the resilience challenges to be able to like rise above and find that within ourselves. And so I do have compassion for that, but I just know that for me, that wasn't the way that I was wanting to serve. And so that was something that I had to
Yeah.
kind of look within myself and go, well, what is it about me that I maybe need to do to kind of like be a little bit more clear on how I want to be?
Yeah. And in my own business, I've gotten to this point where one of the things that supports me in pricing the way that I do is that then I have the flexibility to gift things or to do scholarships or to do free offerings or to, for instance, like a couple months ago, I found out that one of the clients that I worked regularly with for years lost someone very important to her. And immediately when I found out, I reached out to her and I was like, let's get on a call. Like, let me give you a complimentary service and let's like do this practice
Mm.
of what I do when someone's like familiar or pet or like special animal crosses over. And like to be able to just gift that and not feel like, oh, that takes away from my time and like, oh, I need to make more. And to be able to do that and to be able to offer scholarships and to be able to do that with like ease and enjoyment because I'm pricing it at the way that I do is such a benefit to pricing at this like very aligned level for me.
How would you recommend somebody? Because some people, like what you're talking about, it wouldn't even be in the vicinity of where they would even consider pricing or starting out with. So, how do you kind of start out slowly? I mean, obviously, you need to define who it is you want to serve and the feelings that they're going to evoke and that kind of person. That's really clear. And as we've
Hmm.
talked about, you've been able to move into that, which is fantastic. So once you have that locked in and you're aware of that, how do you then kind of start to price in a way that feels in alignment with you? Because I think anytime there's been a discord with pricing, that's where like there's always been a bit of a challenge. Or if I've gone to myself, I'm like, oh, they're getting a massive deal here. And yeah, and like that's
Yeah.
okay sometimes to just give somebody that opportunity. And but you have to be in alignment with that. And that people can only know that on an individual basis. But yeah, thoughts on that, how to kind of get started?
Hmm. One of one of the things that has been really transformational for me is being able to do free offerings that feed into these connections. So for a lot of us who are working in vibration or working in these areas that are hard to language sometimes. And like that's been a difficulty for me where I'm like, God, I do so many things. I mean, at the beginning of our chat, you're like, there's so many things
Yeah.
that we could talk about. And so sometimes I will do like I recently just did a 15-day free develop your intuition offering in Telegram. And like I had a bunch of people in Telegram, and every day for 15 days, I like dropped a little like audio or video or written up thing and then after that, I offered people like 50% off of either a single service or one of my programs, and even with my private coaching for the first month, which is a very
Yeah.
hefty discount. But these people have spent their time with me and have gotten to know my style and my methodology and how I teach and the fact that I
Yeah.
swear all the time. Like the ones who are like, "Oh, I want to figure out like I'm loving this and now things have come up for me and now I want to find what would be right for me and how I can really benefit from this discount." And like that, somebody who's like, oh, I get it now. Like, I really get it now. And I feel it alive in me. And I understand that it's you. And now I want to like really explore these different options. That has been really beneficial for me. Where that I'm like, okay, I have tons of different price ranges. I mean, you can work in my Vault Access for $33. My membership is $99 a month. Like my single sessions are $444 for like just 90 minutes all the way up to
Yeah.
$15,000 for 3 months. And so having something at each level that feels aligned for me. Like I can do Magical Mentee for $1,111 a month, and that feels really good. And then I can
Ah,
do
I
a
love
single
that.
session for this amount. And it's been sitting with the self and really knowing this is what that takes and this is what I can accomplish in that time and this is who it's for and having something at different levels. And so yes, it is on that person to go, of course you might like this price more, but if you really want this service and I can see that difference, like I have told people no, where they're like, "Oh, I want this and I want to get this out of it, but I only want to spend this amount of money." And I'm like, "It's not a good fit."
Yeah,
And
that's
being
great.
willing to say no to something that is not aligned will allow those aligned things to really come in for you. Because it's when we like make those adjustments that don't feel good. Now, when you find somebody, and I've had clients come in who are like, "Oh, I want to do this and this," and I'm like, "Oh, that's actually like not any of these things. Let's make you
Mm,
something." And I'm excited and they're excited and we're both like nerding out together and I'm like, "Okay, that's a good fit." But if somebody's just negotiating on price and wants to be priced over here but wants all the I'm like, "That's not a good fit." And me being able to walk away from that, me being able to clearly state, like, hey, I'm not able to take everything that would be in here and infuse it in this. And I know you're not going to be happy, and I'm not going to put me or you in that situation. So if you want to work on just this thing in this container, or you want to join this thing over here, but if this is really what you want, like this is the
Yeah.
price tag on that. And I'm sorry, like that's not available
Yeah.
to be shifted. And being able to stand with sovereignty and authority in that.
Yeah.
I know it feels like you're cutting things off, but again, back to that clear channel, like you are being clear with the powers
Yeah.
that you believe in, whether that's God or universe or your higher self. You're being clear with your value and what you know it takes, and you're clearing the way for those right aligned people to show up and work with you and love
Yeah.
it, because that's what we want. We want to end that, whatever it is, session, service, offering, membership, mastermind, private coaching. We want to end that. And I want both of us to be like, that was fucking great. You got so much more than what you paid for. I feel like I made a good amount of money, and I loved doing it. And I feel like you got so much out of it where you feel like it was worth that amount of money. I don't want to end in any other way besides, oh my God, I'm blown away, or that was worth
Yes.
every
I
penny.
love that so much. That's so good. And also, most
Mm-hmm.
people who buy something from you will buy again. And there's also something called payment plans,
Yes.
which, most people are
Mm-hmm.
open to.
Yes.
I always like to add a percentage increase on a payment plan,
Mm-hmm.
just saying. I love that so much. And I think that, that will be a great stepping stone, because when you're talking about doing these things for this price, but then if you get me like on call, on tap all the time, you have to pay for that privilege. I think that seems like a
Mm-hmm.
more comfortable journey that
Yes.
people can take. And then, like you said, the minute that you feel really excited and you're like in integrity with something, people are going to feel that too, and they're going to get that outcome that you're hoping that they're going to get,
Yes.
because you're both in alignment there. Yeah.
That has been the way that I've birthed a lot of new programs, is where someone comes to me and they're like, "Oh, I want this." And I'm like, "Oh, I don't have that." But like, yeah, I do that. And now I want to like make that thing. So I do it for that one person, and then I turn it into a program or a mastermind or an offering. And that's how Magical Mentee was birthed, because I was like, "Oh, this is different. This isn't private coaching where we're doing everything in your life and nothing is off limits." And like you're saying, like I am on tap, and you could literally like, I only take on 3 clients at a time in that, if that, because it is so much and it is so much dedication. Whereas Magical Mentee, I feel like I have an unlimited capacity for talking about magic. And so when that's the only thing that we're talking about, and we're not going into like these other like personal things, it's just magic. I'm like, oh yeah. And that's a different price because it doesn't take the
Mm,
same for me. And it actually like charges me up so often that I'm like, oh, that expands my own magic. So that pricing is very different. And I don't even have structure. So like some of my Magical Mentee clients will have like multiple calls in a week or multiple days. And it's like, it looks so different than private coaching, which is like this specific cadence and in this specific way. Because I'm like, let's just magic
yeah.
nerd together. And I'm like, if you do 3 rituals in your week, I want to talk about all 3 of your rituals, before and after. And I want to know how they
Yeah.
went. And I want to know what you're going to change. And like,
I
yes.
love that so much.
Mm-hmm.
That's so good. Yes. All right. Well, we're out of time. So, but you're going to come back on the show. You've already said you would agree to that. Hopefully now that we
Yes.
spend an hour together, you
Yes.
still feel
Yes.
that way.
I'd love to.
Lindsay, how can people
Yes.
get a hold of you? You've talked about some of your amazing programs. I know you have your podcast. Can you please share all the goodies and anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to jam on before we wrap up?
Yes, you guys can find me on Instagram and on TikTok and on Facebook and on Threads at my brand name, Our and R. That's Ourandare. I would also love for you to help me welcome my brand new baby into this world. I just birthed the Professional Priestess podcast. You can find me on social media at Professional Priestess Podcast or Professional Priestess Pod. I would love for you to check out the episode that I have launched. Hopefully, by the time this comes out, I'll have several other
Yes.
episodes out. But this is my brand new baby, and I'm so excited about it. And I would love to hear your feedback on it, because it's something that I don't see many people talking about really bringing together these like high level mystical workers and letting you part the veil. We're getting to know the business owners behind these mystical offerings, and we're getting to know the human as well as the cosmic. And it has just been like this conversation where I'm like, oh my God, I got to calm down because I'm so excited about sharing all of it and really spotlighting these other magical feminine
Beautiful.
practitioners. So I would love to connect with you guys on social media, and I would love to actually provide you with a link of a free offering so people can get a little experience of kind of what I'm talking about. So if you know what healer, light worker, all of that is, but you're like, what do you really mean by like a priestess offering? I want to share some active practice with you. So I'll give you a couple links for people to
Perfect. Well,
check
thank
that
you so
out.
much, Lindsay. You definitely are amazingly articulate. So I think you're going to do really well with that podcast.
Thank
And it's
you.
been so great talking to you. And next time you come on the show, we'll talk about priestess work and magic. Let's throw it in too, because I could gem about that for ages. So
Yes.
thank you so
Yes,
much for being
please.
on the show.
Thank you.
Hi. Thanks so much for listening to the episode. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave us a review where you listen to your podcasts and share it with your friends. Thank you. New episodes every Thursday.